What's up, y'all? Welcome back to the Onyx Report's Black Masculinist News for the day. I hope you're well. I apologize about the sound issues in the last video. If you missed it, I did post a re-edited version dealing with this whole issue of black male-only schools. So if the volume is low on the version you're hearing of that, you're probably still looking at the unedited version. Which I left as unlisted. So it's still up there, but unless you already have the link, you can't get to it. So go ahead and head to my channel directly on YouTube. And if you click on the video that's there, that's the edited version if you're interested in that. But I appreciate your patience nonetheless and your support. And speaking of support, make sure you like, share, subscribe, join, and donate. Please support the channel if you will. Today, as I'm sure you know, we're going to deal with a different issue. We're going to deal with a young woman who got 35 years, right, for proxy murder. What is proxy murder? Well, it's basically proxy in this sense means that somebody sets another person on the task of killing another person, right? But when we apply gender to it, basically what it means is when you have a woman, send another person to attack or kill you as a man. This happens quite a bit. And we're all familiar with it. It's been happening since grade school. I can't remember how many times as a kid, I remember a girl saying, I'm gonna get my brother to beat somebody up, beat you up, whatever. That's proxy, that's proxy assault, really. It's just, but here's the twist. Here's the twist. When you talk about proxy assault, proxy homicide, right? When we look at the statistics, right? We look at the statistics on men killing women. It seems like it's just a unilateral, kind of thing. Now, we do know in terms of abuse and in terms of intimate partner homicide, the numbers aren't as far apart as people think. Really not. Really not. For the most part, in terms of abuse, the rates are bidirectional. In terms of homicide, you're talking about a ratio, it's usually like somewhere between 200 and 230 women a year and maybe 170, 190 men a year that are killed by their intimate partner in the black community. And out of a population of over 43 million, that's minuscule. So as I've said before, as a good colleague once said to me, you have a better chance of being struck by lightning or dying in a flood than being killed by your intimate partner, male or female. So let's get that straight, fellas. I want you to be able to put that particular arrow in your quiver. Know that when people start bringing up abuse, especially in conversations about black men, get it straight. The rates of abuse are bidirectional in the black community, which means they're nigh equal coming from men and from women. When it comes to homicide, yeah, it's slightly more for women, but out of a population of 43 million, it's minuscule. It's less. It's not even 1% men that are engaging in these things. It's a fraction of that. So let's get those things straight. But when we talk about proxy homicide, the twist to it is if it's successful, meaning it's carried out and a man dies because a woman has sent another man to assassinate him, right? It's only recorded as one man killing another. We actually don't know the rates as far as proxy murder because a woman has to get caught doing it in order for us to know, which is the issue with this case. This girl actually got caught. But if she doesn't get caught, we don't ever know. So it's hard to measure. But we do know, thanks to Dr. Warren Farrell in his book, Myth of Male Power, he actually points out that when it comes to the assassinating of boyfriends and husbands, there are some common tropes, and they're very class related. One of the things he pointed out was that poor women tend to use sex to entice younger men to assassinate their husbands and their boyfriends, but usually husbands. And wealthier women use money, right? So there's a method involved with the manipulating of men on the basis of what class standing a woman actually has. So there's those things to keep in mind. And the other thing to note is that much of the time it involves insurance, life insurance, right? The husband still becomes a monetary cash grab, even in death, right? So women, by and large, who are interested in killing their partners generally don't do so unless there's a cash dimension to it, or at least do so far less. But in this instance, we're actually talking about a teenager. And this is an article you can find in Richmond.com entitled "Chesterfield Teen Gets 35 Years for Enticing Friend to Kill Man She Falsely Claimed Raped Her." So we're not only dealing with proxy homicide, we're also dealing with a false rape claim. Right? All right. And of course, chivalry. And you'll see what I mean in a minute. A Chesterfield County teen was sentenced Wednesday to serve 35 years in prison for manipulating a close friend to kill a young Richmond man, 2 days after she claimed the man had raped her. The defendant, however, admitted after her conviction that she lied about a sexual assault. At the end of a sentencing hearing in Chesterfield Circuit Court, Judge David E. Johnson sentenced Anaya Nari Daly to 60 years in prison with 25 years suspended for murder in the April 29, 2018 shooting of 19-year-old Breland Poole. Daly was 16 at the time of the killing. She turned 19 last week. The reckless disregard for human life displayed by the defendant in coaxing the victim to the scene, aiming the trigger man at him, and bringing about his murder, just as surely as if she had stood by the car and pulled the trigger herself, Johnson said from the bench. Adjust this a little bit. Okay. The judge also spoke of Daly's chilling calculation and planning and executing the murder, and her manipulation of a friend to carry it out with repeated and false rape allegations. The judge imposed a sentence near the high end of state sentencing guidelines calculated for Daly, which called for an active term of 23 years and 5 months at the low end and 39 years at the high end. Defense attorney Travis Williams urged the judge to sentence Daly as a juvenile, noting her age at the time of the offense and a tormented childhood without a father figure that included numerous sexual assaults beginning at age 6. Right? So again, we're starting to see the impact of an absence of fathers, even though many black men were told they weren't necessary. But anyway, according to the evidence, Daly and a friend, Antoine J. Durham, then 22, worked together to set up Poole to be killed after they exchanged dozens of Instagram messages. In one exchange between the two on March 23, 2018, just over a month before Poole's killing, Daly said, "I should say he raped me." Durham replied, "Let's shoot him. Laugh out loud. Let me shoot him. Let me kill him. I'ma kill him. Please let me kill him." Yeah, I believe we refer to that as maximum simping. But anyway, Daly and Durham were talking about someone other than Poole, but prosecutors introduced it to show the pattern of her lies and malicious intent. Authorities believe that Daly convinced Durham that Poole had raped her on April 27, 2018, 2 days before the killing. Investigators determined through cell phone records that Daly called Durham on that day, right after the alleged rape, according to court documents. After a Chesterfield jury found Daly guilty of murder following a 3-day trial in January, Daly admitted to a probation officer who interviewed her as part of a presentence report that she lied about the rape because she felt pressured by the grand jury and the police. Now, this is an interesting piece to this, right? Because we know that women have, especially in the last 5 years since Me Too, have a power now. They've had for a while now, but it's been magnified since Me Too, to where terms like sexual assault and rape immediately give them a get out of jail free card in regard to being accountable for their behavior. This is evidence of that, because when we try to have those conversations, we talk about how women can abuse these concepts. What we're told is women don't. What we're told is false allegations don't happen, right? But we can actually see here how when pressured, she used it as a ploy, right? When pressured, so she says, right? Hold on. Go ahead and scroll down here. Under oath in front of a multi-jurisdictional grand jury, this defendant lied and falsely accused the deceased, the 19-year-old victim, of one of the most heinous crimes imaginable, of rape. And Ennis said. Now, this is interesting, right? Because here you have a black male being falsely accused of rape. And people readily take it as the truth. Not only because a woman said it, but because a black male is considered guilty of it. So that was actually considered a viable argument until it became clear that she lied. Anyway, Daly's motive for wanting Poole killed was not discussed Wednesday. Now get this. This girl had this man killed, and it's not even discussed as to why. What did he do to deserve it? He clearly didn't rape her by her own admission, but she just decided to have him killed. and they're not even going to discuss why she did it. We have no idea what her motive was. But all indications suggest he didn't actually do anything to her. It's a lot of power when it comes to weaponizing femininity and chivalry in such manner, right? 5 months after the slaying, detectives arrested Durham and charged him with being the triggerman in Poole's slaying. Chesterfield jury found Durham guilty in June 2019 of murder and felony use of a firearm, and recommended he serve 40 years in prison, a sentence that a judge imposed that September. Chesterfield detectives determined that Daly had been interacting with Poole in the days leading up to his murder. On the evening he was killed, Poole arrived at the Ivy Walk apartments where Daly lived after she invited him to come see her. By the way, the fact that she got 23 years and he got 40, I think they both should have got 40. I'm just letting you know. If you instigate a murder and if you pull one off, I don't think the sentence should change very much. All right, so at 10:21 p.m. on April 29, 2018, Chesterfield Emergency Communications received an open line call from Poole after he had been shot multiple times while inside his gold 2002 Ford Taurus, which was backed into a space in the apartment complex. Responding officers found a hole in the shattered driver's side window, and Poole slumped behind the wheel with a phone in his right hand. He died after being transported to a hospital. Poole recovered police recovered four 9mm cartridge casings around Poole's car, and detectives concluded that his killer was standing outside the vehicle while shooting into the car. Chesterfield canine officials responded with their dogs and tracked two routes to the parking lot where Poole was shot in his car. One route ended at the guardrails along Chippingham Parkway, the major roadway that borders the woods surrounding the Ivy Walk apartments. The second route ran from the crime scene along the Chippingham Parkway guardrail and through a wooded area that ended near Daly's residence. On the morning after the killing, detectives interviewed Daly at the Chesterfield school she attended. Daly told them she had been in touch with Poole and had invited him over to hang out, and that he was coming over to her apartment on the night he was killed. Daly told investigators that Poole sent her a text message when he arrived at the complex, and shortly thereafter she heard gunshots outside her residence but didn't go to investigate. When detectives asked if she tried contacting Poole after hearing the gunshots, she said no, because if something did happen to him, the police would be looking into it, and she thought it would look bad if she were calling or texting him, according to court documents. Daly provided detectives her phone when they asked to see it, and they discovered that all the data had been erased and the phone had been reset to factory settings. In addition to Daly, detectives soon identified Durham and a third person, Daryl Wilson, as potential suspects in the slaying. Through witness interviews, cell phone records, and social media evidence, detectives learned that Durham and Daly were very close. Wilson later told police that he observed the end of a closed-door conversation between Daly and Durham on April 27, 2018, and noticed that Durham placed the only call he made to Poole on that same night. There was no evidence that Antoine Durham knew Poole outside of the connection to Anaya Daly, or that he had ever had any contact with Poole at any point prior to that single call. In-house and Deputy Commonwealth's Attorney Barbara Cook said in a summary of evidence. Cell phone GPS evidence and witness testimony established that Durham and Wilson left a nearby apartment, drove down the Chippingham Parkway to the Ivy Walk apartments between 10:03 and 10:09 p.m. Evidence shows that Durham and Wilson stopped near Daly's apartment, where Durham had a short conversation with Daly. Therefore, Durham and Wilson moved the car they arrived in to an area off the shoulder of the Chippingham Parkway, just beyond the woods, near the rear of the Ivy Walk apartments. The evidence established that Durham then exited the vehicle, went through the woods toward where Poole was parked, while Wilson stayed in the car. Minutes later, Wilson saw Durham jogging back from the wooded area about the same time that Chesterfield Emergency Communications received two 911 calls about the shooting. Wilson, who cooperated with police and testified against Durham and Daly at their trials, pleaded guilty February 22nd to accessory after the fact to murder and was given a 12-month suspended jail term. Authorities determined that Wilson had no knowledge that Durham intended to kill Poole that evening. This is ridiculous. But this is the threat of proxy violence, proxy assault, and proxy homicide. It can be instigated, and unless that woman is found out, she's not a part of the narrative. So when we look at the statistics around this, it looks like it's a man-on-man crime. And in the Black community, there's already plenty of that. So there's really no urgency in this regard, because the only way to have urgency is to have evidence. The only way to have evidence is if you have someone come forward, you have a witness come forward, or now what we're starting to see more of course, is the use of technology and kind of finding these things out. But this is not always a guarantee. And you also got to factor in, how long has this been happening? Well, I would argue that proxy homicide, proxy assault, these things have been happening for millennia. I mean, this is just it's part of being human, right? But my issue is the degree to which we don't talk about it. We don't consider it. It's not real to us. We laugh it off. We dismiss it. I don't think it needs to be dismissed. I think we need to talk about it, right? So that said, this piece is fairly revealing. If anybody has any information about it, please feel free to share. Or if you have any other such cases you run across, don't hesitate to shoot them to me, because I really do want to get a conversation going about the ways Black men in particular, but men in general, have to navigate and experience these issues with very little response, very little discussion about it and the importance of it. Because this man lost his life for nothing. Not only do we not know why, but for the most part, we're still lucky she even got caught. Because as idiotic as the man may be that pulled the trigger, he probably wouldn't have done it at all if she didn't put him up to it. He probably never, as they said, he had no contact whatsoever with the victim. So anyway, that said, any responses, any reflections, make sure to put them in the comment section. Like, share, subscribe, join, and donate. Thanks a lot, and we'll talk soon. Peace.